Hello, everybody. Today we're going to start discussion about stabilization grants round 2, and we are so incredibly excited to have gotten through round 1. You all did a tremendously great job of giving us valuable information to make round 2 easier and better. And can I just say, I have been so excited to hear from you the stories about how you're utilizing these funds to support not just your teachers and your program, but children and families. So congratulations to you for the work that you've been doing, and really excited to continue to provide some support. So in round 1, we awarded around $177 million, which is about 3,000 providers, and that is so super exciting. We again know that this funding is really desperately needed and excited to be able to have the funds to distribute in this way. We do have a full 2021 program impact report that you can find on the Build, Learn, Grow site, and really would encourage you to go and take a read through that, share it with your stakeholders and parents and community members. It's really reflective of the tremendous work that you all have been doing and the way that we are attempting to partner to make childcare better and more accessible for families. So as with round 1, there are some eligibility criteria, and you'll see most of this has not changed. But in order to be eligible, an early education or out-of-school time provider has to be licensed and or registered to operate by March 11th of 2021 if you're a program that's not eligible to receive subsidy. If you are eligible to receive subsidy, you need to have been licensed then by January 14th of 2022 and active in the CCDF program. Unfortunately, I don't have flexibility around that March 11th, 2021 date. That was something that Congress put into place. And so I do apologize if you are a provider who falls outside of that date and does not accept subsidy. But what I would say is continue to watch our Build, Learn, Grow site as we anticipate having some other opportunities for you to receive some support. You do have to be open and currently serving children on the date of your application. So please know, though, that if you've had to temporarily close for that 14-day period or any of those periods that your health department is indicating because of COVID exposures, that doesn't count. You are definitely still open and operating. You might just be temporarily closed. So you're absolutely fine to still apply. And then you do have to be in good standing with the regulations for licensed or registered care. And so that means that you cannot be in a repayment status for funding that you owe back to the office here. It means that you can't have a revocation or action being taken under your license. And if you have questions about your standing, you are welcome to reach out to our office, and we're happy to support you in making sure you know where that lands. As with round 1, Head Start and Early Head Start grantees are not eligible because of the allocations that they receive directly from the federal government. However, child care partnerships can apply. And if you have questions, again, if you're a grantee or a child care partnership about whether or not you're eligible, feel free to reach out to our office or to Tanya Carriger, who is our collaboration director, and any of us can help you with that. So there are allowable uses for the funds, and you can find an expense category details and some resources for you at the website you see at the top, but on the Build, Learn, Grow site. So if you've not checked those out for round 1, please do that for round 2 so that you have access to those. But these funds can come across any of these 6 categories of allowable expenses to cover cost of just general operating expenses that occurred from January 31st, 2020 all the way through September 30th of 2023. And so these are things like personnel costs. So that can be increased wages for your staff, bonuses, paid sick leave. It could be benefits, those kinds of things. All of those count. Any sort of health and safety training. So this can be CPR, first aid, medication administration, all of those things that you do regularly to ensure that you're in compliance with your license. Any COVID-19 safety related items that you still might need. So this can be extra cleaning supplies, it can be PPE, all of those things that I wish I could tell you we're going away in the near future, but I fear that they're not. And so, certainly be planning for and thinking about what your needs are related to COVID-19 in the coming months. Any goods or services that are necessary to resume and strengthen your operations. So these are things like food, materials for play, equipment, all of those things that are just a part of your normal day-to-day routine. A really important category is mental health supports for children and your employees. So that could be bringing in clinicians to help offer some employee assistance. It could be bringing in some social workers to help you think about connecting families to services. Any of those things would be allowable, and certainly we'd encourage you to think about that category. And then facility fees, maintenance, and improvements. So things like rent, if you needed to upgrade some equipment on your playground, installing railings, those kinds of things. Again, with round one, I will give you similar guidance, which is if you are thinking about some level of construction, I would ask that you please reach out to our office first. There are some things that are allowable, but major construction is not allowable. And so I don't want y'all to go down those paths and then end up saying, no, that was not an allowable expense. So we're here to help you if you need help thinking through that. So how you apply for round two is just like in round one. You're going to first, log into iLead, and if you need support getting into your iLead account, you can contact the Solution Center, and they can certainly help you with that, or the Spark Help Desk. Either entity is able to give you support. The application is going to open the week of January 17th, and you can apply anytime from the opening through April 15th. So if you maybe just applied in the first round and haven't even begun to plan for using that fund, that's okay. You can apply right now when the application opens, or if you need to wait a little bit, that's okay too. Programs who did receive funding in round one are going to be required to complete an expense report prior to your ability to apply for round two. So this will not be difficult, I promise, nothing crazy. You're not going to have to submit receipts and things to us, but we are going to ask you for some information. The grants will be awarded on a rolling basis, and they are non-competitive, so you definitely don't need to worry about competing against your colleague down the street. This really is based on your environment and what's happening for you, and again, we're not asking you to be competitive in that way. And then upon award, the funds will be electronically deposited into your bank accounts within 3 weeks of your grant being approved. And so keep in mind, if your grant was not yet approved when you submitted it, if you needed to provide us banking information, all of those things have to happen before we can schedule it for payment. So in most cases, we hope to get you that funding really quickly, but in others, if we're doing some back and forth with you, it may take a little bit longer. So expense reporting. So again, if you were awarded funds in round one, you are required to complete an expense report before you can apply for your round two funds. These reports will be completed using this online portal, and will collect your use of funds across those 6 allowable expense categories. So in order to do your report, you're going to log into iLead. You're going to click the button on the homepage that says Access the Stabilization Grant Portal. You're going to go to the reporting page and click on your program's title. Then you're going to enter the dollar amounts for the funds spent to date in those 6 allowable expense categories. So again, I'm not asking you to submit receipts. I am asking you to say if you spent $50 in personnel costs, that's what you would put there. If you spent $100 in mental health, you would put that there. We are going to ask you to then give us some greater detail about your program's average hourly wages. And then you would just click Complete Expense Report. And then it says you can now apply for a round two stabilization grant. And it really should be just as easy as that. But before you come in to do the grant application, you may want to go ahead and pull together information on what you spent funding on so far, and do your own calculations so that you're ready to give us that information when you log in. So returning users might notice just a few updates to the round two application. And what I will say is that these updates were made on feedback that we received from you all during round one. And for those of you who gave us good detailed information, we use that to really improve the cost model. And so hopefully you'll see some improvements in that as well. You will be asked to provide your monthly rent or mortgage expenses. And the reason we're asking you to tell us this is because it's a big part of the cost model, and we want to be sure that we're continually collecting information about those expenses for you so that we can do things like update our market rates and really improve kind of our cost modeling for future efforts. You will be asked to indicate if you participate in the CACFP program. And this is because for programs that do, you are receiving funding through the Department of Education to help pay for the cost of food, and you've also been receiving additional funding from us to help pay for that. And so if you're already in CACFP, that's great. We're not including that cost then in the cost model for you, but for programs that don't participate, we want to be sure that you are receiving some level of funding for the food costs that you have. So this is why we're asking you this question. Programs that applied in round one will have pre-populated classroom details. So all the things that you told us in round one, you're going to see that. So if you had 5 classrooms and 10 teachers and the number of children, you're going to see that there. We do want you to update that if things have changed. That's really important because that drives a lot of your cost model. But if it has stayed the same, that's okay. You can indicate that as well. We simply didn't want you to have to re-enter all of the great information you told us in round one. You will be asked to review and verify your monthly expense details, and then your round two grant will be equal to 5 months of your estimated monthly expenses. So if you recall in round one, we did 3 months, and this round we're doing 5 months. And the reason is we want to make sure that you understand kind of the total amount of funding that you might have. We do anticipate this being the last round, so that you have plenty of time to plan so that you can spend these funds by the time that they have to be spent. So the grant awards will continue to vary by program, and they'll be calculated at the program and site level with the application using our cost estimation model. So like in round one, the cost estimation formula still considers things like your program type, your average attendance, your staffing cost, your quality level, and your geography. Round two expense calculations then have been modified to consider additional factors such as CACFP participation and some other items. So again, we did take the information you gave us to update the cost model, and so we hope that you see some of that reflective here. Grant awards for round two are going to be capped at $850,000 per site. So again, this is per, you can think of it as license or registration numbers. So you will receive a total award amount during the application process so that you're aware of the funding total that you should expect to receive. So keep in mind, initially we thought after round one, if you received the cap of 500,000, you might not be eligible for round two. That is not the case based on the funding that we have left. So you will be capped then for this round at 850,000 per site. So there are several FAQs up on the website, but here are some just to kind of talk about for a moment. So, do you have to provide receipts or documentation of how your program spent the grant funds? Our federal regulations require that any recipient of federal funds, which these are, you have to keep financial documents for 5 years. You're only going to be required to give those receipts to us if you are selected for an audit to provide evidence of those expenditures. So in the application and the expense report, you don't have to give us receipts, but you do need to have them. And what I will tell you is we anticipate auditing at least 10% of providers. So just know that we'll do a random sampling. And if you get selected for that, you are going to have to show our auditors those grant receipts. So please be sure you keep those. The second question is, can I report and apply for round two if I have not spent any of my round one grant funds? Yeah, you definitely can. You would put 0 then in each of those categories under spent for when you come in to apply. But I would just say if you need any help determining the way you want to use these funds, the folks at Spark have done a really great job of setting up resources for you and can be there to help you. And we've provided that contact information there. When will my program be required to submit expense reports? So in receiving funds, you are agreeing to complete at least 2 expense reports. And round one grant recipients, you have to complete one now. And then we will start to communicate with you down the road and give you plenty of notice about when we're asking for the second report to come in from you. So the terms and conditions of the grant are exactly what you saw before, but you will see as you move through the application some additional language that you see there in green. And this is really because we've unfortunately have some programs who right after receiving the funds, they decided to close, and that is not allowable. And so you can't get the funds on a Monday and close on a Tuesday. Unfortunately, that's not what the grant is for. And so in the cases where that happens, you are required to repay all of the unspent funds within at least 5 business days of that closure, and then provide documentation that verifies that any funds you spent prior to the closure were allowable. So we want to make that clear because, again, we've had just some issues with that in round one, and certainly, want to be sure everyone kind of is aware of the parameters as we move into round two. So what can you expect after submitting? So in most cases, you're going to get award confirmation and the grant amount at the end of the application. If your grant needs to undergo further review before the award, then those decisions, we try to make those within 7 business days. What I will say though, that's very dependent on your response time to us. So please keep an eye on your email so that as we're asking you questions that you are ready to answer those. Upon award, then grant funds get deposited into your bank account within 3 weeks of the grant being approved. And then if you are selected for some post-award technical assistance, you'll be contacted by Spark to participate in that. You will receive reminders from us to complete expense reports for your awarded grant funds as we move forward as well. So you hopefully are getting our text alerts and our emails. If you're not, please reach out to your licensing consultant and they can make sure you get signed up for those. So lastly, there's a lot here on our FAQs at the Build, Learn, Grow site. There's help for you if you have questions or just need some support in thinking about how to use the funds or what you're going to do here in round 2 through our partners at Spark. And then there's also live chat available if you would like to chat via technology as opposed to talking to someone. There's an opportunity for do that as well. But if you have questions, again, you've got lots of good resources and people here waiting to help you. So please let us know how we can do that. I thank you so much for your time today and really look forward to talking with you as the months tick along. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.